Now I'd like to introduce you to another candidate. He'll introduce himself, of who he's with, and his policies himself. As I said, I am independent, Republican, nationalist, standing from Ferrybank right out to Tramore, so that would, and City West. And this is John Walsh. He has bravely stood up for the Irish people here in Waterford also. John is an amazing man, and I have the highest respect and endorse him fully for this election.
Thanks, Melissa. I want to, first of all, say I admire the courage of Ms. Halligan to come here today to talk. I must say, when I was 6 years of age, I remember coming down the hall one morning, and my father had been upset over something, and my father was a very kind man, but something upset him, and he raised his voice against my mother. And I was terribly upset. So any man who perpetuates violence against a woman is totally reprehensible. I was here at my first political meeting, actually at this spot, in 1965. My uncle was running for election for Fine Gael, and the speaker was the outstanding statesman James Dillon, whose father had been with John Redmond. John Redmond represented this city for many years. But John Redmond achieved great things for Waterford, but he also achieved what Daniel O'Connell and Charles Stewart Parnell could not do, and that was to persuade the British government to give us self-government. Now, the 1920 Act was actually that, but of course events in 1916 changed that as well. And it is very disappointing in this city that there is no monument to John Redmond. It's a terrible failure. And we also, Luke Wadding, a great man who achieved so much for Ireland. The last Irish governor before 1921 was the Confederation of Kenny in 1643. He achieved that. He persuaded the Vatican to put St. Patrick's Day in the church calendar, and that's been worth billions to the Irish people. Unfortunately, Luke Wadding was in the centre. We were unique in this city in having not a military man, as it were, as a centre, but a man with a pen. He had a pen in his hand. But they shipped him up a side street, and very few people see him now. So he should be on the main street so everybody can see him. Now I'm standing for the Irish People Party, which is a collection, is an umbrella group for independence. And the Irish People Party is one of the nationalist parties. It's one of the, and we're actually asking people to vote for nationalist parties and for independence. But their main policies are the family creation and support, migration, sensible immigration, not open borders. Education should not be indoctrination. Leave the kids alone. The innocence of a child is very precious. And what I've seen is what they're trying to do. They're trying to corrupt children. At the age of 13 and 14, they are physically destroying them in such a way as that they will never be able to have children themselves, and they will end up committing suicide. We need free speech is vitally important. James Dillon was a great man for on that subject, for instance. But we have a situation where a young man is rotting in a cell in Mountjoy because he was prepared to follow his conscience. Having him dismissed from his job was blatant religious discrimination. But, shoving him into prison, he has committed no crime, and he faces life in prison. Remember that, life in prison he faces because he will not back down no matter what they do to him. And as well as that, his poor family are being destroyed. His poor mother has to watch that, and she has been a great defender of him and his brothers and sisters. I mean, his mother and his sister went in. His mother and his sisters went into the Church of Ireland Synod, and they were physically attacked. Now, the other policy is neutrality, and Michael spoke very well on neutrality there. Yeah, it is very sad. We were always brokers, peace brokers, because that was our expertise. But by taking sides, we have no quarrel with the people in Russia, But as Michael said, our capacity to be a peace broker has been so much damaged by flying Ukrainian flags all over the place. Anyhow, in regards to rural situations, and I said I come from a farming background. The farmers feed us. Net zero will starve us. And housing then, house the Irish and not the world. We need housing for our young people. Young people can't start families unless they have houses. You know, I have two sons who are still living at home with us. They need to have, we put an application in for housing, local housing for them, 15 years ago. They're still in the queue. They'll never get off the queue. And we need to put the Irish first. We need to prioritise our own people. They're our family. Okay, Irish people are the most generous people in the world. We look after genuine refugees, people escaping, violence or famine and so on. But we need to. Our compassion must not be abused. Our generosity must not be abused. The government's immigration policies are an absolute shambles. I saw a video today of truckloads of houses coming in at 3 o'clock in the morning. So, when you want to do something, when you want to do a bad deed, you do it in the dark. You do it in the, so this election, the government had a big shock with the referendum. Remember, nearly 90% of the people they could not persuade to vote for their proposal. So let's give them another shot, and let's get Gillick elected, Melissa elected, and Michael Lee is, to me, an outstanding statesman, and we badly need him in the European Parliament. So, au revoir.
Thank you very much, John. John is your candidate here in Waterford that will stand up and be a very strong voice in the local council. And John is running in Waterford East.